Hi, I'm Whack.
Hi, and I'm Pat, and thanks for joining us for another episode of the Weekly Orbit. The week ending December 16th is where we try to consolidate all the news of Rocket Pool in about 30 minutes. Whack, I'm back in the United States. I'm suffering from a little jet lag, 16-hour difference. I really appreciate now the team when they came from Brisbane to ETH Denver that they were just trying to power through those days because their inner time clock was all messed up. So, but it's good to be back.
Yeah, getting to Australia and back it makes everything upside down, and you're upside down while you're there, then you're upside down when you're back. I'm glad you're back in the one piece.
Looks like you got a fresh new look. Was that a 4K camera you're using?
Yeah, I got a new camera, I got a new light setup, I got some like little toys, and I'm hoping that by the time the new year comes around, I'll have a new setup as well, like all of it going firing on full cylinders. I'm still like spending some time kind of like tweaking things and trying to fix things, but it's coming along really nicely. And um, I remember in January last year, I had a new like branding and stuff. I got Sleety to design a bunch of stuff for me,
Mm.
so I'm putting some things in the work for January this year as well. So that's exciting.
Turn it into a world-class production, that rocket fuel.
Yeah, that's what you got to do. You got to like step up the production game. Like never stay still. Like always got to keep improving.
Yeah, speaking of production, I'm not sure if our viewers have seen the last few episodes. We've had some technical issues. We've been able to edit some of it out, but the uh, you guys can't see it. But sometimes we're talking to each other, and the screen whack screen will freeze, his audio will freeze, or vice versa. And so this week I was trying to troubleshoot, and so I said, "Hey, Whack, are you using a VPN?" He's like, "No." And then I said, "Are you? Do you have any open applications while we're recording?" He's like, "Well, does 5 Chrome browser windows and 100 open tabs count?" So yeah, that might affect it. So
So
today it's
there's
going fresh.
one browser window and one tab. That's it. So let's see if it makes a difference.
Yeah, so far so good. It looks good. Um, so you guys last week had a little meetup in Chicago. It looks like you guys posted some pictures here in the Discord.
Yeah,
Who do we got? It looks like Patches and who else here?
another community member. It's like let's just not name people, but
Yeah.
there was a lot of people who turned up. It was really good fun. We This is the second annual like Winter Chicago meetup. We had a meetup last year as well, and that was really good fun. And then we did it again this year. We had a bunch of the same people who turned up last year that came again, and it was really exciting. It's really good fun. We are in the very early stages of planning a rocket pool summer bash in Chicago, where we are going to make a $10 ticket that will go towards food, and it's going to be a rooftop party on the lake. That's going to be amazing. Like this is a very early bread, but in the summer, maybe end of July, I think, or beginning of August, and I think it's going to be really fun. So definitely,
Breaking news here on the
yeah,
Weekly Orbit.
definitely put on your calendars because it's going to be huge. But we've met in Chicago 2 years in a row now in the winter, and it's really cold. So I think we might transition it into a summer meetup instead. But it's going to be really good fun in the summer. I think so. Definitely put that
Yeah,
on your.
Chicago's great. I was 2 summers ago. I was there for Lollapalooza, which actually is at the end of July. So you may or may not want to schedule around that because there's like 500,000 people there for that festival.
Yeah.
Um, so that's something to look forward to. Let's take a look at some stats this week. Whack the deposit pool. We had some nice action for the week. We had. Let's go to weekly here. Weekly was about 7,000
Mhm.
deposits, which is pretty nice.
Yeah.
The week before that, we were at 18,000, and so during this particular week, we've on the 14th and 15th, we had 1,500 and 2,700 ETH deposited. So we had some action. It looks like some people are spinning up some mini pools. In particular, we had one KX who went to town and burned through a whole bunch of ETH. So what's your take?
Yeah, so last week was the bad kind of um, deposit pool action because that was the result of someone burning ETH, right? Like they burnt 20,000 ETH. I think Seven Sisters, which is a group that works with Maker, they burned around 20,000 ETH, and then we got the deposit pool full again within a matter of hours, which was really exciting. This time it was the good kind of deposit pool action because 1KX, they're a group who have several nodes and hundreds of validators. I think 1,500 validators now. They were pumping the deposit. They were pumping out validators, and that's why we got such good action there. And then as soon as they stopped with their validators, you can see, you scroll down, you can see the people started depositing like ETH, and as soon as there was space, like, there was like 300, 400, and then we got like a whale splash to get 100 plus, sorry, 1,000 plus, that's right there,
Yeah.
ETH, like 1,300 nearly, to fill it up again, and then that was it. The deposit pool was closed again. So it's really cool. The way it works is, there's so much demand for our ETH, and we can see that, right? Because as soon as there's any space in the deposit pool, it's getting filled up really quickly. Now the question is just how much demand is there and how quickly will that fill up. So that's definitely something to keep an eye on. And there's no way to know until we are in a position where we can make a lot of space in the deposit pool. That would be fun, I think.
Yeah, I mean, signs are good because last week or 2 weeks ago, when I think there was almost 10,000 ETH room within the deposit pool, and within just a few hours, it was filled. And
Yeah.
then this week too, I don't know if people have bots set up to alert them when there is an opening, but man, it fills up quickly.
So there's arbitrage bots that watch the deposit pool, and as soon as there's space in there, they arbit against the premium on the secondary market. So they can absorb, depending on how big the premium is, they can absorb potentially hundreds, if not thousands, of RETH themselves. And then there's other community members like this person on the screen right now. This person who minted 1,200. That seems like a group or an individual who did that, right? So I don't know if they're just watching it or if they have bots set up too, but the our bots are on it. Like the feeding frenzy starts as soon as there's any space, and they try to arb that. Which is why Ramana's bot works. When you arb the deposit pool, you can make that money for yourself instead of giving it to a bot.
Right, right. Okay, I know our next stat this week. It's my favorite week of the month. We got the smoothing pool and rewards period ending in about 4 to 5 days. I think it's December 20th. I think is the date. Right now, the smoothing pool stands at 414 ETH, which is pretty good. Any predictions on what we'll get to? You think we'll hit 450 by the 20th?
450, I think. Yeah. The gas usage has been quite busy, like this whole last month, maybe 6 weeks, and
Mm-hmm.
gas amount is just one aspect of it. The main thing that really impacts the smoothing pool size is just how much like arbitrage opportunities there are. It's volatility that makes a difference more than like sustained high gas prices. But we've had a decent month. It's already better than the last few months, and there's a chance that it'll be the best in the last 4 months. I don't think it's going to get to that month, in the middle of September, where or end of August, sorry, those ones, it's not going to reach those heights unless we get an amazing block in the next few days. But it's a respectable month. It's not amazing and
Oh
it's
yeah,
not.
yeah.
It's yeah.
So the all-time high is 619,
Hmm.
and yeah, I would say mid 400 is definitely respectable,
Yeah.
and so that's pretty good.
Yeah.
All right, move on to some news. Um, but before we move on, we were talking about this before we started recording. I posted in Discord this morning. Staking tokens are down in general. It's not unique to Rocket Pool. Returns in the last 30 days. You have RPL at minus 8.7%, Lido at minus 8.8%, and Swise at minus 10.6%. So I know we're very inward looking. We like to criticize the tokenomics RPL, which the community is working on. But RPL is not unique. Where as a the narrative has shifted from staking, which was the shiny thing in the first quarter of 2023, where we saw all-time highs. But at that time, Lido was doing really well too. And the narrative has shifted over to right now. It's like Solana, Bonk, some other things. And as we know, whack in this like industry, narratives shift from one thing and then to the next thing and the next thing. Right now, staking is just not the hot thing. But I want to just, it's a pet peeve of mine. I know folks criticize RPL, RPL, RPL. It's like, I didn't hear anyone criticizing it when it was pumping to $65 back in February, I think it was. So
Right.
we've got our issues and we're working on it. I don't know if Lido is working on their tokenomics, to be honest, or Swise or other communities. Perhaps they are, maybe not. But we have, at least we've acknowledged that and we're working on it. But
Right.
hey, the narrative carries the day in the end here, and as you can see, RPL's doing just the same as the other staking providers. Do you have any takes on it? And when can
Yeah.
we see maybe the narrative shift around?
Yeah, so there's a couple of things, like you're absolutely right. The narrative is huge, right? So with Rocket Pool, we had Shanghai, which was withdrawals on the Ethereum mainnet, and we had Atlas, which was like this huge, well hyped update that the community really rallied behind, like certain points of hype around that, and all of that together was really great in getting that pump. And we outperformed Lido, we outperformed other staking tokens in that period. Now with right now, like there's nothing about staking really that's out and about, and no one's really talking about staking. It's kind of the boring thing that's just there, and it's just other things are more exciting, right? Like airdrops and farming, DeFi and bonk and meme tokens and stuff, and that's where everyone's attention is right now. And
Hmm.
there's of course there's attention on the ETFs and even with the next or Denab, whatever you call it, Denkun, that doesn't have much in there for staking. It's mostly about layer twos. So they're getting a narrative push now. So then when does the staking narrative come back, right? Well, there are a couple of things for Rocket Pool, and then there's something for Ethereum as well. So if you look at it, we have node set, which I think is going to be a big narrative push for Rocket Pool. If the community can kind of get behind that with a good messaging, we can have Houston. That is more about like decentralization, which isn't as attractive as price pumping, but like that is a big step for Rocket Pool as well. And then the main thing will be that towards the end of next year with Saturn upgrade, also coinciding with Electra, the next upgrade on Ethereum, which will have some nice staking upgrades in there. Nothing, of course, as big and flashy as withdrawals, but definitely like staking leaning. But then Saturn for Rocket Pool is going to be huge. So those are like narrative shifts that could be happening in that time, and hopefully that will be also coinciding with momentum in the wider bull market. And those things together, I'm hoping will set us up really nicely in that period. So as long as Saturn is a success, then I think we'll be in a really good position. But narratives come and go, and you
Yeah.
never know how things change and how they will change. But there are a few things in 2024 to be excited about, definitely.
Yeah, I was just listening to Anthony Sassano this morning. He was talking about DeFi summer back a few years ago, and it's become lore and Ethereum about this DeFi summer. Well, as he was pointing out, it was literally like 90 days. That was
Mhm.
it. Things
Yeah.
pumped hard, and then after it pumped, these tokens like Compound and others, they went down 70% within a couple of weeks, right? So these things come and go. Sometimes they come quick, and then they move on to the next thing. So
Mhm.
keep the faith, folks. We're doing just fine. Let's move on to some other news. Rocket Pool posted in Discord. I'm sorry, on Twitter this week that they've got a partnership with Base and the Coinbase wallet. So it looks like you can natively liquid stake with Rocket Pool directly from the Coinbase wallet, um, along with Coinbase's own CB With just a few clicks, you can effortlessly convert your ETH to our ETH, which automatically accrues staking rewards over time and can be used in multiple DeFi applications. So this is nice. Coinbase has really become Ethereum aligned. Coinbase Ventures is a stake. They've got like, I don't know if you call it a stake. They've got a whole bunch of, aren't they? They're running validators, as I recall, right?
And they're actually
Using Rockwell.
also. So yeah, they're on the now.
Yeah.
But
Oh, that's right. I forgot about that too. Yeah. So they're this is a nice feature. And I was looking up Coinbase Wallet in terms of its usage. It is in finance, it's ranked 56th in the Apple Store ranking. And I think as we see the bull market continue as it matures, you'll start to see these crypto wallets increase in terms of popularity and the downloads. And
yeah.
actually, I was listening back. was reading somebody's thesis, and they, in the last bull market, what they were doing was they were keeping track, trying to figure out, when is the top? I want to sell when the top comes. Well, their metric was when Coinbase became the number one downloaded app in the App Store, that's when he hit the sell button.
Yeah.
So, it's one theory, but there's a lot of different top sell or lots of different signals you can watch, but downloads of apps is definitely one of them.
Yeah. And the great thing about Coinbase is, it's getting a lot of momentum as being like the big remaining, like, well regulated exchange, and it's kind of going into to position like being the king, like through these king making like regulation stuff. Coinbase does have a lawsuit against it at the moment, but people think that it should win that lawsuit, and then a lot of other things that exchanges like Binance or even Kraken have kind of experienced. Coinbase has kind of been able to avoid a lot of those things. So by default, it might become like one of the biggest exchanges in the world, and they're definitely making moves towards doing that. So having these integrations with Rocket Pool, I think, is really great for Rocket Pool, but it helps Coinbase too. So, in that tweet thread, they were talking about how we have, our ETH is on the base layer two, how we have our ETH minting in the Coinbase app, how Coinbase's ventures arm is on the ODAO. So, there's like deeper integrations, which is really great because it adds a lot of legitimacy to Rocket Pool.
Definitely. Okay, moving on to the next item. So there's a now on Holsky posted in the Rocket Pool Discord under node operators. He says, I noticed that on my node that's using geth with PBSS, the disk-based usage does continue creeping up, just much slower than before. From what I understand, PBSS allowed for online memory pruning. So is that something that happens every so often? And Patches responded that you're going to notice it's going to, just because it prunes doesn't mean that the amount of state on your disk doesn't grow. It just grows slower. I thought there's a good explanation. It goes on a couple pages here. So with pruning, this is a little technical. If you don't prune, you got to kind of, or if it doesn't automatically prune, I should say, then you have to do it every so often yourself. Now with Geth, they've integrated an auto prune feature, which, could you explain that a little bit for our listeners, how that works?
Yeah, so it's not just Geth that does auto pruning now. Bisu and Nethermind already had that feature built into it, and Geth has just made it into the main stack just a couple of months ago. So it was available on their like dev builds, but not on their main public build. But what it means is just that like it kind of compresses the space needed to host the ETH1 and the ETH2 clients. So that's consensus and execution clients. But what happens is, Patches here kind of explains the sneaky. Now Haneshki's sneaky ninja guy. SNG. So what happens is, even though you can clean up a lot of that data and you can like compress it or not, it's not needed, but it's still matter is that you will get data added every day to your machine. So most people have their NUC or their machine set up with a 2 terabyte hard drive. Like if you do a raw sync of your clients, that takes up around 1 terabyte, I think, maybe a little bit less, but then it goes up by about 0.1% a day. So you're gonna max out within a few years potentially, and then at that point you can do a fresh resync, which will kind of like get rid of some of the data. But also, what's going to happen is hopefully within the next few years there'll be an update on Ethereum that will help you, but like it'll make the state less cumbersome to deal with. And this is more of an issue for um, archive nodes that like have every transaction, every state of every block on the whole of the Ethereum chain. Those suffer more state growth. One of the other things to note is as well is that there'll be some added state growth with EIP 4844, which is the proto dank sharding that will add I think a few hundred gigabytes to your node machine. So it's something that some people, especially if they're on the 1 terabyte hard drives, might not be able to deal with that anymore. But
Right.
for those on 2 terabyte hard drives, you might have to just pay a little bit more attention to the data usage and your memory usage. But yeah, Patchy said he used the example
Yeah.
of pigeons, and he says you have
I like this. Yeah, I like this pigeon example. Do you want to read it out?
yeah, like 100 pigeons, 100 holes. Every hole has a pigeon, and then if a 101 pigeon comes along, like you have to make another hole, right? Because they're not going to fit in there. So yeah, so Patch said
Right.
even a machine that breaks a pigeon into 100 chunks, you can't fit the chunks in the hole since there's already pigeons in them. So yeah, and Sneaky says I need a SSD with more holes in it. So
Yeah, so I thought that was a good way to break it down. You know, if the pigeon analogy is a good one.
So I
So
can give an example of my node. So I've been running Bisu on my node for over a year now. I think 2 years, not quite two. I think 2 years since the beginning. I've been running Bisu, and my growth has been about 10% in that time. I think I'm on 65 or 70% of my hard drive is used. My disk is used. So it should be okay if you've got a 2 terabyte disk. If you've got a 4 terabyte disk, there's nothing at all to worry about. It's just
right,
people who've got 1 terabyte disks. You shouldn't have a 1 terabyte disk anymore.
right, exactly. Okay, on to our next item. One thing that happened this week too, Wack, was we had some liquidity added in terms of the RPL market, and this is the most current wall at the wall. If you run the wall command in Discord, and it definitely has increased. We got some on the green, which is the sell, and you have whole bunch in the red, which is the buy.
Mhm.
But this looks a little healthier than it did, say, a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah.
What's do we know who added all the liquidity, or do you have any information on this?
Not that I know of. I mean, you can dig into Uniswap and see what is going on there and like which addresses is adding the liquidity. But I didn't do that, and I didn't see anyone else share that information. But what we do see is like there's a little bit of buy side liquidity, which means that as people sell RPL, there's ETH waiting to buy the RPL, which we really needed
Hmm.
because what happened is that we were reaching the point where we were in a low liquidity zone, which meant any buy that came in, it was going to impact the price a lot. There was going to be a lot of slippage, which makes it a bad user experience to buy in that situation. So what's happened here is that people have added the buy side liquidity. There's also been some sell side liquidity that's been added as well. So it's going to be a little bit harder to move the price up, but the good thing is that we've got some buy side liquidity, which hopefully should protect us a little bit on the downside. Um, and that's where we are right now. And there's still not that much buy side liquidity, but I think the buy side liquidity kind of comes up when it's needed in a sense because people notice that they're doing other things with their ETH, right? Like they could be using it in DeFi or having rETH or something even, and then once that moment comes when we're in a low liquidity zone, they can bring that up and set up a wall like one of these tall walls, and anytime the price passes through that, they make fees. So the returns on those walls when you're in that wall can be really good. So
Yep.
I guess that's why people are doing that.
Yeah, and so there was a discussion in Discord. I think you had it during your show. It was kind of a back and forth about the liquidity and the slippage, and you know, I don't remember who said it, but if you did try to pass 100 ETH, you swap 100 ETH, what would be the slippage on RPL? And it's about 1%. And when you compare that to a lot of the DeFi tokens, it's it's about the same, maybe a little better, a little less, depending on which token it was.
Yeah.
So, is the liquidity sometimes are we talking about it too much as a problem when compared to other DeFi tokens? I know the IMC, their one of their tasks is to make sure there's liquidity. Are we overhyping this, or is it a legitimate problem?
No, there've been moments where it's a legitimate problem, and it was a legitimate problem this week as well. When we were in the low liquidity zone,
Hmm.
the IMC is working on this, and they've added it to their charter to add more RPL liquidity. They're just moving a little bit slowly on that, sadly, but it is a legitimate concern, and I think the good thing is that this liquidity does come up when we need it, but what we need is a little bit more from the IMC, I think, to add those liquidity zones that will help kind of stabilize the price a little bit. Well, not stabilize the price necessarily, but help with slippage because
Hmm.
that's the main thing that it comes down to. And the person you're referring to was Ishka, who was kind of broke down that some of the DeFi tokens, like you said, were a little bit better. Like you get less slippage with the 100 ETH cell, and some of them were a lot worse. Like Compound had a 16%.
Yeah, I
Yeah, that
remember
was
it was like combo was double digits.
yeah,
I mean,
slippage.
on 100 ETH, that's amazing.
that's not much. But what happened is like that analysis was run after the new liquidity was added. If it was run before the new liquidity added, it might have been worse, significantly worse than Ishka's numbers.
Gotcha. Okay, on to our last item for the week. This is a good post by Epinef on the Rakapool forum. So it's a rapid research incubator, and this is a bounty to call out. Hey, if you've got some ideas, um, here's a kind of guideline on what type of things we're looking for here. Could you just summarize the point of this and what has what can we look forward to? Is this a call out to the community? It's like, hey, we're going through some. We want to throw. If you've got a great idea, we want to throw in and see if it sticks to the wall. Here's a way you can be incentivized to do it. And why don't you elaborate on this a little bit?
That's exactly what it is. If you can just scroll up a tiny little bit, the other way, yeah. So what happens is, we realized that there was right there. Yeah, that's good. What we realized was that there was a need to change Rocket Boost tokenomics because there's a whole lot of things happening in the coming year. Lido's community staking module is going to go live towards the end of next year. Then there's other staking services that are coming on that like Diva and others that might have really good profitability for people who bring their ETH, and they might only require ETH. Like Lido CSM is definitely the case where they'll only require ETH or ST ETH, I guess. With Diva, it'll likely be that they only require ETH. So the profitability margins for Rocket Pool node operators might not be as good compared to some of these other services. So we were kind of went through an existential crisis moment. I think a couple of months ago, maybe 6 weeks ago or something, and we realized that we need to fix up, and we've got 1 year to do this. Like that's our lead time, and we need to fix it as soon as possible, right? Like we need to make Rocket Pool a much more attractive protocol to use as a
Mm-hmm.
node operator, as someone who wants rETH, everything. Like we just need it to be better, and how do we do that right? So, the community had a bunch of ideas. People shared their ideas that they'd already had from before that were kind of like percolating. And what Epinef and Val, myself, and a few others kind of realized was that, we need a lot of ideas kind of thrown to the wall and see what sticks. So Epinef took the lead on this, kind of wrote this bounty, and there's 4 areas of research that we're looking for ideas. Number one is mechanisms to help balance the supply and demand across the parties in the protocol. So the supply and demand and like profitability and stuff for rETH holders, RPL holders, and for node operators. And then we need mechanisms of alternative value capture for RPL. We need mechanisms for feasibility requirements for lowering the ETH bond for lower ETH mini pools like LEB4s, LEB2s, some kind of uh, you know, um, Saturn style mega pools, like, with non-linear bonding, and then updates to the penalty system for MEV theft. So these were the 4 areas of research that we think that would really help Rocket Pool become a better protocol and more profitable for node operators, better for our ETH holders, just a better protocol overall. And we started getting some ideas in the options thread, where a lot of the options draft thread, but a lot of these discussions are taking place. But we kind of wanted to formalize it here so like everyone could get some money for bringing good ideas. So at the moment, the way it stands is that there are 12 people who will get $250. There's 3 people who will get $1,000, one person who will get $1,500, and one person who will get $2,500. So these are 15 prizes, no, not 15, 17 prizes. And what we ask for is some research, some ideas. It doesn't have to be in great depth. It can be quite a high level, but earnest and good faith ideas where the text is like between half a page and 3 pages long. And
Mm-hmm.
we'll kind of evaluate ideas, and then we will pay out to those people as a as a bounty, basically, for giving those ideas. And then if any of those ideas are good, then it's likely that they will be developed going forwards. And then that person, if they're included in developing those ideas more and they get used, then we will probably pay them more. So it's really
What's the deadline for the submissions?
we want submissions as soon as possible. So ideally before the end of this calendar year would be really good. Like so over the next couple of weeks. I know that people
Hmm.
are already working on some of the ideas right now, and some people are waiting for the holidays to get that downtime so they can come and like write down some of the ideas. But we want that, like it's literally called the rapid incubator. Like we want these ideas quick. Like if you've got an idea to make rocket pool better, like flesh it out a little bit, see if it matches one of those four criterias, and then get it out. Let's get it out. So that's the main idea. Epinef shares that you can either put it in this thread, you can put it in Discord, you can put it on the Google Doc and send it to Epinef. Like however you want to share it, Epinef will keep the details of the people who submitted ideas, and then it's almost certainly the case that if your idea is in good faith, you'll get something. But there's 17 prizes, so we're looking for, and people can submit multiple ideas if they want as well. And there's some really good money to be made.
Yeah, I'm excited to see what comes of this. I know there's folks who've had ideas, but then there's other folks we haven't heard from who've got ideas as well, and so you got kind of a mix. I hope we get several, and I think we'll be in good spot, come the first quarter,
Yeah,
in terms of tokenomics reform and how we're going to value capture in the future differently than we have in the past too,
yeah,
because there's a highly competitive market with staking. Like you said, you've got new protocols coming online. You've got existing ones making, like the Lighthouse CSM making changes. So we've got
yeah.
our work cut out for us, but it's exciting.
Absolutely, yeah. And I think that we're approaching this with the right level of urgency, and we're approaching with the right level of openness to make sure that the moves that we make now and the decisions that we make now will have really good and positive impacts for Rocket Pool in the months to come. So I'm really excited about it.
Yeah, I am too. Okay, well, the episode went well. Whack, we didn't have any technical hangups, so I guess closing all those 100 tabs really helped.
Now I have to go open them again, so it's
Yep.
all good.
So thanks for joining us. Hit the like and subscribe buttons on YouTube. Listen to us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, wherever you find your favorite podcasts. And until next week, Whack, we'll see you and take care.
Thank you all so much.
Okay, bye bye.